I've come on here today to talk about muscle tension dysphonia because I'm fed up with our profession labeling everything as tension. Are you aware that nearly half of the people who go to a voice clinic are diagnosed with muscle tension dysphonia? Is it truly epidemic, or are we overdiagnosing this disorder? I believe we are overdiagnosing the disorder, and I'd like to talk about why. Clinicians who do laryngeal exams, whether they're speech-language pathologists or laryngologists, are supposed to use diagnostic criteria to assess laryngeal functions. One of the items on that list is to assess the epilaryngeal space, or the anterior to posterior dimension of the epilarynx. Now, where is the epilarynx? Well, I've got my laryngeal model here. The epilarynx is the space between the epiglottis and the arytenoids. And theoretically, if that space is narrowed or smaller, then it's an indication or one of the indications of muscle tension dysphonia. But this particular diagnostic element has some problems with it, and I'd like to share what those problems are. In this image, we can see a wide open epilarynx on the left and a narrowed epilarynx on the right. But there are all sorts of circumstances under which a narrowed epilarynx is normal. For example, in this case, we're going to take a look at someone breathing, and his normal resting position is with a narrowed epilarynx.
Let's see. We're looking for Ladonna Immobile, right?
Now, before you say to me, oh, he was probably adjusting to the scope, he was holding his epilarynx in a protective stance, rest assured, he'd already done some singing. He was laughing, enjoying the process. He had already done some speaking. That was simply his normal resting position in a narrowed epilaryngeal configuration. And he had no difficulties. I'd actually hired him as a tenor to do a project for me, and he had just come in to do some singing for fun. Now, another condition under which we see normal epilaryngeal narrowing is during production of speech sounds or spoken text. For example, every vowel has its own epilaryngeal configuration or its own anterior to posterior dimension. And that's because the epiglottis is attached to the tongue. So every movement of the tongue impacts the shape inside the larynx. Here we're going to take a look at somebody saying E and then ah, and you'll notice a tremendous difference in that anterior to posterior dimension.
Wait, one more time. There. E, ah, E, ah. Yeah, that's amazing.
So that anterior to posterior dimension is not only changing with every vowel, but it changes with pitch, it changes with timbre, and this is especially problematic if people are trying to apply the criteria during singing. And I see this all the time. I get reports, I get copies of endoscopic exams from all over the world, and I can hear the clinicians applying the criteria during singing tests. Schoenberg's theory of singer's formant says that a narrowed epilarynx is actually what contributes to the production of singer's formant. I actually don't agree with that because it's a constantly changing landscape as I've already mentioned. It cannot be held constant. However, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? We are not doing people any favors by labeling everything as tension, and singing teachers are just as guilty. If you want someone to drop the jaw, just say that. Why do we call everything tension? You know, I think back to my days of playing golf, and the golf instructor would have never said your hands are tense because they're too close together. He might have said just move them further apart. Words matter, and these words get in singers' heads, they get in our clients' heads, and they stick with them. They walk away thinking, why do I have tension? What's wrong with me? Why am I so tense? Let's stop pathologizing people. If you'd like to learn more about muscle tension dysphonia and the diagnostic criteria and why these are problematic, I encourage you to join my latest course. I have provided a link in the text below.